Yo ho ho! So today I'm going to do a review on Perfume Story of a Murder by Patrick Suskind. I read this about 5 months ago, so just bear with me. It's been a long time coming, and it is set in 18th century Paris around a boy called Jean-Baptiste Grenouille. From the get-go, rough life, it sucks, Paris stinks, it's minging. His mother gives birth to him under a fish stall, assumes that he's going to be a stillborn as all her other children have been, and kind of leaves him there. He starts crying, people start going, hey, what the fuck, and she's taken off and beheaded. So then Jean-Baptiste is of course an orphan, and he's sent around from person to person because no one really likes keeping him. He kind of creeps people out because he has no scent. Basically, baby, no smell, also seems to have a super powerful nose. Like, chapter 3 of this book made me laugh so hard. I know it was set up to be like super creepy and foreshadowing and all this sorts of stuff, but my god, I was laughing so hard, just the mental image. I thought it was interesting how they kept referring to the baby as it or bastard, and it was kind of making me laugh as well. Jean-Baptiste grows up, he's infatuated with like all these different smells, like that's what drives him. He has this kind of memory thing where he can recall smells at a later date, so he can like memorize a smell and then like think back of like, oh, what does that smell like again? And I don't know, it's very odd. He meets a man called Baldini, who's basically this like washed up husk of a perfumer, and he's like trying to rip off other perfumes and things like that. And you know, Jean-Baptiste's like, here, listen, I can do, that perfume, you reek of it, and I can make it for you in like 6 seconds. So Baldini takes Jean-Baptiste in as an apprentice perfumer, and Jean-Baptiste was making all these different perfumes, and Jean-Baptiste, he isn't really impressed by any of these perfumes. He thinks they're very bland and boring and just dull. He makes out a list of all these different perfumes that will just knock people's socks off basically, and gives it to Baldini, and in exchange Baldini teaches him like the tricks of the trade of like how to harvest scent and the correct ways of doing it. That's like one thing he gets really irritated with Jean-Baptiste, because he's shaking the perfume too. So he basically resurrects Baldini and he becomes super popular again, just becoming successful as a perfumer, even though none of them are his scents. They're all coming from Jean-Baptiste. So as the story goes on, it's not spoilers, it's called Story of Perfume of Murder. Jean-Baptiste starts killing Geardels to harvest their smell and create the most beautiful perfume on the face of the earth. There's some parts of this book where it kind of like, when it comes to like the mixing of the perfume and things like that, when I was reading it, I was like, why am I interested in reading this? Why am I finding this so kind of like fascinating to read? Because I'm not interested in any of that kind of stuff. But it's just so beautifully written that you can't really stop yourself from reading it, and it just really kind of, I don't know if enchanting is the right word, but I don't know, enticing. It's one of those books that literally had me from page 1, and that is so rare. Normally it takes me a few chapters to get into the book, to get into the feel of it. And for some reason I had the idea that this was going to be a really difficult read. I have no idea why. I just kind of assumed, how sometimes like you get like an idea in your head about like a book being kind of difficult or something, then you start reading and you're like, why was I putting this off for so long? That was one of those books for me, and I devoured it. I read it pretty fast and I loved it. I guess it's because of me, I'm kind of desensitized. I found this book quite funny in places, and I literally was like laughing out loud. But it was set up to be very creepy, but I just mental images and nostrils flaring and babies, it was. But I think if you're someone who isn't really, you don't really read kind of like horror or thriller or any things like that, you'll probably be creeped out by this. I thought the ending of the book was absolutely perfect, even though while I was reading it I was like, what the fuck? But like after I put it down and I had to think about it, I was like, that is the most perfect ending. And to be fair, you kind of saw it coming, but you didn't, in the sense of you got this feeling from Jean-Baptiste that it was a weird ending, but it was perfect. Like, it couldn't have ended any other way in my eyes. I thought the description of the smells was fantastic. When I was reading it, sometimes I could like begin to smell what I was reading about, which was kind of weird. I thought the description of like the smells of the people in the city, and it just really grossed me out at some point when like he starts going into like what people smell like, of like cheese and old cheese. Oh, it was making me fucking sick. I also thought what was interesting about this was the actual description of harvesting scents, the different techniques to harvest a scent, and like even like when he's talking about, you know, the smell of glass, the smell of this and that, like things that, you know, we don't consider have smells, that he's like, it does have a smell and I'm gonna get the smell out of it, and he's going through all these different ways of trying to like harvest the smell of glass. And I don't know, I just thought it was really like a really interesting read, creepy I guess, and really well written. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars on Goodreads. I'd say really 4.5, and that's purely for the kind of the slower parts of the book where Jean Baptiste decides to piss off and go live in a cave because he's sick of mankind and their smells. It's amazing that he could even like in the wind, if he got when he was walking through the hills or walking through wherever he was walking through, that if he got a whiff of someone in the wind, he'd go in the opposite direction and just keep going. We're kind of getting into it a bit more. The first murder, Jean Baptiste, it basically he kind of accidentally kills a girl because he's so into her smell and so kind of intoxicated by it and blinded by it that he doesn't realize what he's doing. And it seems like at first when I was reading it, I thought he seemed that he regretted killing her, but as you go kind of deeper on into the book, you realize he doesn't regret killing people. What he regretted was that, you know, now she doesn't smell anymore. He can, you know, her scent was kind of, you know, dying because she wasn't alive anymore, and that's creepy. Like that's weird. Like that's serial killer-ish. Those kind of parts creeped me out. At the end of the day, I thought this was like a really kind of like effortless read where you could just sit down and just enjoy it, and it didn't feel like work. You know, sometimes you read books and they kind of feel like work. You know, you're kind of counting down the pages of like, God, when can I be finished this? This wasn't one of those. I enjoyed like every second of it. I really appreciated that. Really enjoyed it. Really would recommend it to anyone. And yeah. If you're into disturbing reads, check it out. So I hope you enjoyed this review, and I will talk to you soon. Goodbye.